Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I am Jessica Seward, and I'm the Director of Customer Marketing here at ThreatConnect. If you've been on these webinars before, you've probably heard from me. And I'm going to take a few minutes to go over a couple housekeeping items, and then I'll introduce today's speaker. So first, I want to let everyone know that your phone lines are muted to keep background noise to a minimum. So if you do have questions, please ask them by typing them into the chat feature on your webinar console, and we'll answer questions at the end of the webinar. We'll go through all of them at the end. Second, the webinar is being recorded today, so we'll be sending out the recording as soon as we have it available, probably sometime tomorrow. You can look for it. So now I will introduce today's speaker. John Madre is the Senior Customer Success Engineer here at ThreatConnect. He hails from Charleston, South Carolina, and has worked in the cybersecurity industry for the past 8 years in everything from security monitoring to host-based forensics. In his free times, he enjoys traveling and flying drones. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to John now.
All right, thanks, Jess. So let me get this straight so I can share the right screen here. Let's go to, all right, perfect. So we should be seeing the slides now. So my name, like Jess said, thank you for the introduction. My name is John Madre. You may remember me from such roles as some of your customer success engineers and the TQL and dashboarding webinar that we gave a couple of months ago. We're going to put together this webinar as not really a way to teach analysts how to do certain actions, but more as a way of showing you some of the things that are in the platform, some things that have been in the platform, and kind of highlight those things that we felt that weren't being utilized properly or weren't being utilized at all. Let's jump into the next slide here, go over the agenda. So some of the things that we picked out as items that we thought were important to highlight: ThreatAssess and Cal. So we'll go through how you can operationalize and optimize those items, those scores and those thresholds in ThreatAssess and Cal, and what those actually mean to you and how you should use those, how you should use that information to make better and more informed decisions. After that, we'll look into tags and attributes. So I think one of the #1 questions I get asked going in somewhere is, what should we be putting in as a tag? What should we be putting in as an attribute? And just generally like how to use those features. So we'll go over a little bit of that and how we can make those work for you a little bit better. Customizing dashboards. So like I mentioned, there is a bigger webinar around creating dashboards based off of TQL searches, but today I want to go into how you can use, or how we can use a few searches and a few dashboards to put some of that relevant information in front of you. Those things that are going to help you take actions faster than if you were to have to go and search for this information. And then enriching data. This is really one of those things where ThreatConnect shines. This is one of those things where we can take those third-party vendors, that information that's already out there that we're already using, those things that we're looking up and we're making decisions on, how we can put that in the platform. So not only are we pushing that information or storing that information for other analysts as they're doing their investigations, we're also able to take that stuff and make decisions for them. All right. So ThreatAssess and Cal, what do they mean and how can they help you make more informed decisions? So ThreatAssess is, and this is the way I explain to everybody, ThreatAssess is a really great algorithm that was developed by minds greater than mine that is going to go through and take into account a few things to give you an actionable score. So we want to give you something that when that analyst first pulls up and they get to that indicator, they can say, all right, this is how I should proceed from this point. A few things that go into that. Now, it's going to take into account, are there any recent false positives or any recent observations? And then it's going to look at the way your organization and the other sources that you have coming into your organization have rated this indicator. So if everybody in that owns that indicator is rating it at 5 skulls and you've had recent observations, you're going to see that score jump up into the critical area. Versus if you're seeing like some false positives reported, we're going to see that score kind of drop back down. I always tell my customers when I'm talking about these scores are in no way meant to be a definitive answer to you. So if we see something that has a low threshold, if we see an indicator that is marked low as a threat assess score, that's not to tell you that, oh, this isn't an indicator that will infect our environment. This isn't something that, or this is something we shouldn't worry about. That's a way of, you take these threat assess scores to put things in order. So if I'm looking at a list of IP addresses, and matter of fact, I can jump to the platform real quick. If I'm looking at a list of IP addresses, it comes back. Give me a second. It's loading. All right. And I know these are things that I need to look for in my environment. I'm more likely to take a look at, one of the things we do is put them definitely on this browse screen here, but I'm more likely to take a look at those indicators that have a higher threat assess score before I take a look at the ones that have a lower score. So the scores are there in order to help you put in order the things that you need to look at throughout the day. I don't want you to go in and take a look at those scores and say, oh, that's not bad. Or yes, this is, DEFCON 10, we need to go look at this right now. Sort of the same focus when we get over to Cal. Let's switch over to the Cal slide here. All right, so Cal, collective analytics layer. This is one of those things where with the analytics layer, we want to give you as much information as we can from all of the other sources in ThreatConnect. So this is anonymized data that's being fed up by many of your organizations and by our public cloud instance, that all of the false positives that you reported, the observations that are good and reported, that was kind of the initial focus of Cal, was to bring all that collective analytics together so you can see what everybody else in ThreatConnect and ThreatScape is looking at. We've added in a few things over the, since the inception of Cal. So we put in where it shows you some of the other feeds that's being reported in. Even if that's a feed that you don't have access to your environment, it'll show you that indicator is being reported in that feed. And then a few other metrics there. Now, one of the ways I like to use Cal is it kind of gives you, with that insight, you can see things like, not necessarily on this one we have on the slide here, but if we were to look at, we have another one here. All right. So if I was looking at this particular indicator and I'm looking at their Cal insights, one of the first things I noticed is observations of all time. We do have quite a high amount of observations from this coming from all the different instances, but I also noticed that there's some false positives that are listed here. Now, to me, that's not going to tell me that this is automatically a false positive. This is another one of those things we want to trust but verify. What this is going to tell me, though, is if I'm doing my investigation and I start heading down this rabbit hole of looking at an indicator and trying to figure out if it's something that is affecting my environment, the first indication that I come across that this indicator is a false positive, I now have supporting information to my findings to let me know that, okay, this probably is a false positive. And I can mark it as such at that point versus continuing down that rabbit hole without any kind of supporting info. For anybody that's ever done digital forensics, this is what I stress a lot, is this is something that I ran into a lot years ago, where you're doing an investigation, you see something that you're pretty sure might not, it might be a false positive, but you're not 100% sure. So you continue down this certain path until it's 2 days later and you're like, oh, I really should have just stopped back then. That really was a false positive. So this is something where we can give you that supporting information to help you make more informed decisions and make them a lot faster. Again, ThreatAssess and Cal, they are not necessarily new to the platform, but they are things that we want to make sure you understand where those numbers are coming from and what you can do to make better decisions with them. Now, with the low, medium, high, and critical, those actual words around what the numbers mean, those can be, if you're running an on-prem or dedicated cloud instance, we can go in and adjust those variables so it'll display a little bit differently for you. If you're in public cloud, what you see is kind of what you get. We've also have the trends in here that are kind of highlight the way those indicators are looking over the past 7 days or the past 30 days. All right. let's move on. To tags versus attributes. Can't we all just get along? So, like I said, this is one of those big things to me where everybody wonders, should we be using tags in this situation? Should we be using attributes? And honestly, my answer is, why not use both? So the thing is, tags are there for that broad. They're there for that broad thing. So if you're going to go through and mark a file indicator, if you know a certain file hash is a piece of malware, we might go in and mark that file hash with a malware tag. But then once we get down into the attribute level, we want to go in and put like what that actual malware family is. Or we can go in there and associate certain TTPs with it. It's information that put into tags would be kind of messy and convoluted. So we start big with the tags with that broad sense of it's either malware, or we can even put in the threat type into a tag, and then we break that down into more granular stuff once we get down to the attributes. And I'll show you that here in a minute. A few of these things are going to run together as we go. Tags and attributes will kind of filter down into the dashboard stuff that we're going to do. Another thing, searching with tags. So searching with tags, you can put those in directly at the browser. And you can do the same thing with attributes, but with attributes, you have to go through and select which attribute type you want and then go search from there. With tags, you throw it into that tag space there, and it'll bring back all relevant indicators or groups if you're in the group setting. Now, while tags are pivotable in a sense, like you can see every indicator or group that's associated to a tag, I believe that it's a little clunky because it is such a broader aspect, since it is this big umbrella. Once we get down to attributes, those are a little bit more, those are pivotable. So we can actually create those custom attributes that goes in and marks an indicator. So we can go in and select that phase of intrusion for an indicator and pivot and bring back just the results for that specific type of attribute. And then tags, one of the big things we can do with tags, and we're seeing this a lot more in organizations, is we can use tags to trigger playbooks. User actions are there and they're great, but sometimes using those tags in order to jump from playbook to playbook makes things, kind of works out the flow a little bit better. I won't be going into showing you guys the playbooks on this webinar just because not everybody does have playbooks, but we are looking at doing a little more detailed webinar around using tags and attributes in with the playbooks. And then with attributes, you can use those similar to tags, but you can use them to build more detailed dashboards. So we can bring back those attribute types that matter to us. We can bring back those things that we're adding in and have specific dashboards geared towards our organization and towards the results that we're wanting to find. All right, let's jump over and I'll actually, I'll go through the customizing dashboards real quick. Slide. All right, and then customizing dashboards. So everybody wants dashboards, but not everybody knows how to use them. The thing with dashboards is we have a few canned system dashboards that are already in the platform, but those are things that they're meant to be a guideline. They're meant to be a base for you. What we really want is analysts to go in and create those dashboards, create those dashboard cards that are going to be actionable. So a dashboard that when you see a new result populate in that dashboard is something that you can actively go out and either start investigating, or something that maybe you're already investigating, and this is just giving you an update on that so you can further an investigation that you're already working on. And I'm going to show you some of that in these dashboards right now. All right, so what I did, I went through and created, if this will load, give me a second. All right, so I went through and created a few dashboard cards that I thought would be kind of relevant to a SOC analyst or somebody that was, or even an intel analyst, somebody that's actively working investigation. So some of the things I went and created, like this one in the top left over here, these APT observations in the last 24 hours. So we went through and said, okay, show me any indicator that we've observed in the last 24 hours that is also associated to anything that has an APT tag. This might be something that's relevant for the not only the SOC team, but for that intel team, so they can track these adversaries a little bit better. So they're getting real-time notifications in the platform when you're seeing any kind of observation coming back from your defensive integrations. One of the ways we did that, and I can I'll go in and break out the search for you here. So much like I highlighted in the last webinar, where we can go through and use these SQL searches to kind of create these dashboards, we can also pull those SQL searches back up. So we'll do that observations last 24 hours. So we're basically just going and saying, hey, show me anything observed today minus 24 hours that has a group and a tag with APT. Actually, yeah, and has a tag that has APT in that tag. We can go through and modify these to do multiple searches. So I did a few others that are incidents. So these are any incidents that we have in the platform that have observations within, I think this one is within the last 24 hours too, but this one we're using a static date versus using the today minus 24 hours. So these are searches that this information is relevant to us. These are things that we can continue an investigation with, and we can easily turn those into dashboard cards. But we can go a step further. So with those searches, so we have like, this one's based off of an APT tag being part of it. Well, if we also wanted to go in, let's take a look at this particular indicator. And say we want to go in now, we've done some investigation on this, and we've determined that this IP address is coming back is from actually, we've already done it here. We have the exfiltration point right here. So this IP is part of the exploitation phase of intrusion. Now, if we wanted to kind of focus our dashboards in on just that specific phase of intrusion, then we can go back to our previous search that we had. And I'll show you a little trick here that we can do. So we're going to go and actually recreate that really quick. So we'll do, we're just going to add that attribute here. So we'll do phase of intrusion. And we're going to select that exploitation. Now what we can do, since the other values we want to fill in on the advanced side, when we apply this, we can flip this over to advanced, and we can add in those other features that are the other searches that we had before. So we can say, and has group equal to, oh wait, sorry. Type name equal to incident. So we can bring back those things. So we just basically, we're building on top of these searches that we're already doing to get back more specific results around. That's why we want to use those attributes, because those attributes are going to give us that granular view down into the actual indicators themselves. I would highly suggest when it comes to attributes, there's the ability to go in and create attributes that do have drop downs. So if you're going to go through and create custom, let's see, I'll show you one here. Well, this actually has radio buttons, but you can do radio buttons, you can do drop downs, you can do freeform. So we can create those custom attributes that are going to matter to our organization. So it's one of those things where if you guys were using a specific schema that you were looking for, we can go through and label those things out. We recently had a customer that they were basing things off of a tier level. So instead of having it where analysts, there was a possibility of anybody going in and fat fingering what that tier level is, we went through and created a drop-down list so they can go through and select the actual field there, and then we can pivot or we can add those. So based off of that tier, we can go in and say, show me a dashboard that has this attribute that has tier 1 in that attribute level. So we can get more informed dashboards. Those things are great for management and for team leaders to be able to go through and track how many of each types of, like in their case, those tiers they were actually searching for. All right. Another thing that I wanted to go over was enriching indicators with third-party vendors. So this is another one of those things where all of these kind of work hand in hand to give us better data, to give us better dashboards, to give us more actionable intelligence. Enriching with those third-party vendors is significant in the platform. There's the majority of the teams are already going out there and looking for this information. I think it's an injustice for you to go out there and look for the information and do something with it without putting it back in the platform. That's where another area where those custom attributes come into play is where we can create attributes specifically for those third-party vendors to bring that information in. Now, a lot of what I'm going to do in these next few steps are things, this is going to be a manual approach. These are things that if you do have playbooks in your environment, that we can go through and automate these processes so you're automatically pulling in any of the information from those pages that's relevant to you and to your organization. So let's jump into map. I already have one point up here. So this was one of the indicators we were looking at before. So we have a couple of different ways that we can enrich indicators. We do have the Spaces apps available, which most of you are familiar with, but I'm not sure how many people are actually using them. For this particular indicator, I'm gonna highlight this. So we have the OpenDNS Investigate app here. This is just gonna go out and bring back everything that OpenDNS knows about it. So with this app and a few of the other Spaces app, you can actually add the indicators from here directly into the platform. And there's configurations in each of these apps. So we can go through and we can set your threat rating. We can set the confidence rating. But basically what we wanna do is enrich these. So we have this IP address, but what do we do after that? So say you're a SOC analyst and you come across this IP address in Splunk or ArcSight or whatever defensive integration you're using, and we see that there's this event fires for this particular IP address. Well, where do you go from there? And that's usually the big question is, I have this little piece of information, where do I go from there? What else do I look for? So by using these third-party enrichments like OpenDNS, we can go in here and say, all right, well, here's some domains that are associated to this IP address. We can go in and add these into the platform so they get sent over to whatever our defensive integration is so we can actively search for these things. Or we can go back over to this overview page here. And we can use the investigation links. Now, if you are on-prem or dedicated cloud, you do have the ability to go in and add your own custom investigation links. I've seen customers point this to in-house databases that they search for things on, used in a multitude of ways. But the investigation link, its primary purpose is to kind of speed up that process for you and give you some resources, some things that these investigation links were put in there by our research team. These are some of the tools that they use to conduct their job every day. And if anybody knows how to use the platform, it's definitely going to be our research team. So these are some things that they felt that the platform would benefit by having these investigation links in there. So in particular, we can go out to virus total. And any of the information that we see in here that we deem relevant to us. So there's passive DNS entries in here that we can take these entries and either go in and add them manually into the platform and associate back to this IP address. Or there's other URLs. There's information here that we would normally go out and grab so we can search for in those integrations. But we could take this information and bring it back into the platform. So if you wanted to take this and bring it back in as some additional analysis of context, we can go in and add that attribute into the platform. Now we could also go in and create an attribute specifically called virus total URL detections and add that information from there. That's not what I copied. Now this is just for IP detection. I find that this using virus total for looking up your file indicators is going to give you a little bit better information. So we can go in here and say, all right, third-party enrichment. Let's look at the virus total MD5. So we go out and do the MD5 search on virus total. Now, where this is helpful is if you know you have a particular one of these antiviruses, like if you guys are running McAfee in your environment, or if you're running any Symantec in your environment, we now have a name that we can associate with this. So we can take these results and put them in under their own attribute. And we also have detection dates. So what's handy about that is what we could do is we can actually create, and I'm not gonna showcase what I'm gonna talk about. We can actually create a playbook that will go through and say, for this file indicator, bring back what VirusTotal knows about it. And VirusTotal in their API call also brings back a detection date or a package version of that. So McAfee's package version that actually detects this binary. So we can build an if-else playbook that says if that package version is lower than the package version that we currently have installed, then we're not going to worry. We'll put a tag on that of mitigated. But if it's something that we would be affected by, we can throw a tag. We can throw an urgent tag on there. We actually need to go out and do a little bit of research, or maybe we just need to update antivirus on that particular system. So we can use playbooks and these third-party enrichments to not only make more informed decisions, but to act faster on the things that we're finding within our network. All right. So back to these dashboards. Now, there are some pre-canned dashboards that are in the platform. So if you guys don't have, if you're on an on-prem instance or you're on a dedicated cloud instance and you don't see these dashboards that are down here under the system dashboard section, reach out to your customer success engineer, your customer success manager, and let them know. That way we can make sure we get these things loaded for you. So you do have some of the out-of-the-box functionality. And a lot of these are going to give you kind of some insight onto how you should build dashboards and some of the things that you can, some of the information that you can pull in. But definitely don't stop at the dashboards that we've already created for you. If you're having issues getting dashboards built out, reach out to your CSEs and CSMs because they can help you and we can get some sessions set up with maybe our research team that will help you kind of focus the material, the things that you're looking for on the dashboards that we're creating here. That is really all I have in terms of wanting to showcase and highlight some of the things that we want to see you guys using in the platform more and how you can use them better. If there's some great resources that we have out there, so definitely take a look at that TQL and dashboards webinar that we put together a couple of months ago. It dives a little bit deeper into building the actual TQL searches and on how to take those TQL searches and turn them into dashboards. As always, check out our ThreatConnect knowledge base. The knowledge base has articles on everything that we're doing in the platform, and our documentation team is going in and updating that weekly. As we push out new updates, they're going there and updating that. And then the ThreatConnect YouTube channel. So you'll find a lot of videos and helpful how-tos on the ThreatConnect YouTube channel on how to actually go in and accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in ThreatConnect. Any questions? Questions on anything that we covered today, or just questions in general about something that maybe you've wanted to do in the platform that you aren't quite sure how to do it, or any questions out there?
Thanks, John. We have had a few questions come in. And first, let me say thanks for putting those links in there. I will send those out to everyone in the follow-up email with the recording. I'll send the links that John just talked about to the webinar, knowledge base, YouTube. So you can look for those in the follow-up email. All right, let's see what questions we have. Once we've built dashboards, can we share them with people within our organization?
Absolutely. So that's one of the things I love about dashboards is we can go through and build a dashboard. So here I have one that's a SOC and IR Intel dashboard. So these are great for a team lead. So say you have a team lead over that SOC team, or you have that team lead over the IR team, and you want to focus your analyst attention on specific things. You want to put those details in front of them. You can go through and build this dashboard that you want your team working off of. Build it to focus on the things that are relevant to your organization. And then from this little menu icon in the top right hand side, you can actually say, let's share this dashboard. Give it whatever name you want. You can share that out. Not anybody that's in your organization will be able to access and see that dashboard.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. Next question. With Cal, can anyone else see any of my data?
No. All right, so the thing with Cal is everything in Cal is de-identified and it's anonymized. So all your instance is doing is reporting back metrics. So it's reporting back metrics of the indicators that are in your instance to ThreatConnect, and then from there we just take that raw data, we take those raw metrics and we report that back out to Cal, and that's going to happen once a day. So that's another thing. You don't have to, like, Cal's not going to be taxing your system or anything like that. Is once a day we're going to send those metrics up to ThreatConnect. We're going to process that information and then push it back out to all of the live instances of ThreatConnect out there. So no, nobody will be able to see your information that you're putting in. Now, there is the ability that if you don't want to share information in Cal, so say there's particular indicators that you're looking at and you don't want the metrics from those to be reported back to ThreatConnect, you can go in, and this is a recent addition, and I have to look at one that's actually in my org. Oh, that one is in my org. So this is turned off on this particular organization that I'm in right now, but you can go in, there's a Cal status lock that you can see there, and you can turn off so that indicator won't get reported back to Cal. And it's this little button right over here. You can go in there and turn that off so it doesn't get reported back. Any other questions?
Okay. We had a couple people ask about the recording, and we will send the recording out. Probably can look for that tomorrow, and I'll send out those links that John talked about. I'll also send out a link to our, we have a customer-only Slack channel. If some of you are probably a part of it, if you're not yet, I'll send out the link so that you can join that. It's only for customers. It's a place where you can interact and ask questions directly with ThreatConnect staff. And we also post some upcoming trainings and information like on these webinars and new knowledge base articles that come out there as well. So if you're not in that, I will send out the link for that. And that, I don't see any more questions right now. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, John, for
Yeah,
going
absolutely.
over.
If you do come up with questions after the webinar, feel free to email myself. It's jmadger@threatconnect.com, and I'll do the best to get some answers back to you.
Yep, and I think my name, Jessica Seward, it's jseward@threatconnect.com, will be in the follow-up email. You can also email me and I will route it to the right person. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, John.
Thank you.